on your Instagram page, and then also in conversations that you and I have had when we talked about this event happening, you've kind of said two words that have come up. One was celebration, and another one was pain.
Yes.
So I wanted to ask you kind of the background and what led up to you saying, I want to do this, and if there's any events that have transpired in the last year that you're comfortable talking about in terms of what you want to celebrate and what pain has led you to appreciate yourself in this way.
Yeah, absolutely. 2023 was a very hard year for me. It's funny because like these conversations have come up a lot in recent days, like especially with Maria Brown Spence, who's like the executive producer of Hearts to Heal. I didn't realize it until that interview that I had with her that I was grieving the loss of job stability and financial stability. I had my own place, living in Austin, consistent gigs and clients and whatnot. But some things transpired, like a lot of different things transpired. And so like I was like finding my footing, not just as like a creative, but also as a human being, like trying to meet my bare necessities. And blessedly, people helped me out along the way. But one thing that people really couldn't help me with is like finding my creative voice, finding it again, and redefining it. Because I'm not the same person that I was in 2023 or 2022. And so I was like, what could I do to the devil? What could I do to like, to show my past experiences that they don't define me? And I was like, why don't I just like book a space, celebrate my birthday, which I normally don't do, and create and show a body of work that I know is close to who I am as Isaac, as a creative. Some of these images are like a very direct telling of like the pain that I endured.
Is there any image specifically that you would kind of point out? Because I hear you talking about Hearts to Heal, which for those who don't know is a nonprofit that really helps people kind of shed light on and take up space in their grief.
Yeah.
So what photos from this series would you say?
This one right here. This one
Friendly
right here
Fire.
in Friendly Fire and Waterless Pit.
For those that don't know,
Oh,
also,
yeah.
can you tell us a little bit about
So,
the story and then get into that?
Joseph King of Dreams, very gifted and talented, brother of 12, I believe. He's the youngest, or one of the youngest. And he has a dream that he shares with his brothers about them bowing down to him, and he's like going to be a leader of their family and whatnot. And then what they did in return out of jealousy was they threw him in a waterless pit to be sold to slavery thereafter. There's hope at the end of that story, right? There's hope in this image series. There's hope in my story as well, but I'll leave it at that. This like looks like a waterless pit. In that story, like I've read it a lot growing up, and I've heard different people like expound on it or teach from it. And one of the things that I wrestled with and continue to wrestle with is like, did Joseph do anything wrong in that passage? Like I've heard people say that he wasn't supposed to share his dream, or he shouldn't have, or the wise thing to do wouldn't, And I think I find myself in his shoes, like whether knowingly or not, sharing dreams, sharing ambitions, sharing goals, and then having these self-inflicted wounds because I decided to share from others. People who I thought had my best interest who don't. People who see my gifts as fuel to their own jealousy. And so there's pain from those things. But again, there's hope in this story because there's you'll see images of rebirth or like coming out of this pit, so to speak.
That's good. You brought up sharing has brought pain into your life in some points, which we're in a collective space. But you share with me a lot of things, which I appreciate, and I'm always encouraging you to share more, because the work that we see today is only a small piece of the hundreds of images and collections you have. And so this year you have been sharing more in physical spaces. So you've had some showcases and things like that. Can you talk about where you have publicly shared this year, whether physical or digital?
Yeah. I had my first show this year at the Highland Collective, right in front of Highland ACC. A lot of people showed up to that actually. Yeah. I showed off two pieces of work from two photos from a body of work titled Astro Afro, where I found similarities between the African diaspora and the constellations.
You said it was your first showing at Highland Collective, and you had the series called Astro Afro.
Yeah.
Tell us just a small snippet of what the story behind that is,
Yes, like how it came about.
or just what it represents.
Yeah.
Because there was a moment where I walked in and I saw the photo and I was like, oh my gosh, this is great. But then I think Poya might have asked you a question about a story. And I asked your dad if he knew the story as well. And he was like, no, I haven't heard it. And so I was like, okay, we need him to share.
Okay. Well, I hope
what
I
is
answered
Astro Afro?
it. Yeah. I do a lot of pre and post rationalization of my images. So I go into image making with the intention of creating something to tell a story. And then a lot of times, once the artwork is created, what's up, Terrence? Once the artwork is created, I find things in the images that speak to me that are able to tell a certain aspect of that same story. And so in taking those images, I knew I wanted to relate the stars, the constellations, the cosmos to black skin, the black experience. And then in one of the images I created with this shutter drag effect, I thought it spoke to like racial ambiguity, like not knowing necessarily like where you come from or what your chemical makeup is, you know. I think like our white counterparts, it's not even a diss or knock to them, but they have like the genealogies, they have like their whole ancestry recorded. But for us, a lot of that like stops at slavery. We don't really know, and then there's a lot of like, you know, mixing and whatnot of cultures, and that whole thing gets weird and messy. But yeah, so that image, I took it to mean that, and kind of like played to its strengths in that way, in the way that I edited, in the way that I sequenced it in that series.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing more.
Yeah. I don't know if I answered your question before.
You got a little bit to it, but I think
Where have I showed my work?
yeah.
Okay.
Where have you showed your work?
Okay, I'll be brief. Highland Collective had a showing at Good Dog at Good Dad Studios. And then I was recently at Art Gallery of Waco, which was like probably the biggest thing to date so far, which was cool, and also was close to family, so that was dope. And then you didn't ask this, but coming up, I got 2 images accepted into a gallery at Acosta Studios. Yeah. For those of y'all who don't know, Acosta is pretty big, and they're in Austin's art district, and they're in Canopy, which is like quite literally Austin's art district, right across from Sod 10. So lots of visibility, lots of eyes on my work, and so. Yeah.
I have questions about what you have coming up in the future for sure.
Okay.
So you have, I think I've heard 3 places so far that you featured in physical spaces. I heard your nanny ask about availability of the videos up there, which you said they're not available. But is your work featured digitally anywhere?
No.
Okay. What's that face? It looked a little reflective.
No, but I'm thinking about it.
Okay.
Yeah. A lot of those videos are like actually very personal, and I don't think they are ready, or I don't think I'm ready for everybody to see those. I think for Father of Lights and Diamond Eyes, the videos that everybody came here for will be up on Vimeo or something like that. But for those like small vignettes, because y'all are here, y'all got to see those.
Thank you for sharing extra.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about Father of Lights and Diamond Eyes. So I would love to know, as a creator, I feel like when I viewed your work, I see stories within stories. And so there's something that's going on in terms of the audio, like the music quality. But there may be another story that's being told visually. And then there's symbolism within those pieces, and the way that you use props is also, I think, very intentional. And we don't know that story unless you kind of tell us, because art is multi-layered. So let's talk about Diamond Eyes first.
Okay.
What's the story behind it? What's the meaning?
Was it your first time seeing that?
No, you sent it. I asked you.
Okay, that's right. Okay. What was the story behind it?
Yes, the story behind it and the meaning of Diamond Eyes.
Diamond Eyes is the self-portrait equivalent. It's a video, but it's like a self-portrait in video form. In a self-portrait, you're documenting, yourself in a particular time of your life, with everything that carries, your facial expression usually like you're most comfortable with yourself, hopefully. So like your facial expression is a clear representation of what you're going through. And a lot of photographers do this, self-portraits. A lot of artists do it, self-portraits, and you can, yeah, just be able to see their progression throughout time. And so
Yeah.
what I wanted to do was I wanted to create a video about it instead of a self-portrait. Don't think I know entirely why, but I knew I had the resources. Like I knew the right people, had the right place. While a self-portrait can tell you like what you are feeling in the moment, it can't really like tell you exactly what happened in the past. And so for this, like the audio cues of like the car screeching and the water are all like testaments of like my near-death experiences growing up. You know, I was in a terrible accident in high school doing stuff I wasn't supposed to be doing. And I've drowned. I almost drowned on like several accounts doing stuff I'm not supposed to be doing. You know, so I knew I wanted to like add those cues into the video, and then just to show people like what is leading up to that self-portrait moment. And I actually did take an image in like as a part of that project. So we have like the before, and we have the during, and then you're seeing the after.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you talk to me about the flashpoint in the video? So there's a point where the audio, I think, exists one way,
Yeah.
and then we go into the lens and there's a white flash, and there's different audio. What does that flashpoint represent? Because you're talking about a timeline. So can you tell us a little bit about what that moment is
Yeah.
and what was happening before
Yeah,
and after?
yeah. That's a very great question. It's self-realization, or like a pivotal point of self-discovery. Like taking that image, like symbolically, you get to see yourself. And so during that time period when I was going through stuff, and I like was able to recontextualize the stuff that I was going through as like part of my journey, taking that image was like, oh, this is me. Like this is what I do. I'm a creative. I create stuff just because, and I have stories to tell. And so that flashpoint moment is like me looking at myself and like, this is Isaac Rowry. This is photographer, multidisciplinary artist, event planner.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'll move. I will move on, but I also want to ask about your wardrobe, because you're saying that this was a self-portrait, right?
Yeah.
And I hear you in talking about experiences that you've had in the past and having to grieve, but also seeing yourself as the artist that you are. But throughout the video, you are wearing like professional attire. So
Yeah.
even though there's a before story, you're still wearing the same things. So what's the significance behind your choice in wardrobe, if there was one? How does that play into the story?
I mean, some things aren't as deep. Like, I thought it was aesthetically pleasing. Actually, my brother Will, like probably a week prior to that, we got that outfit for my pastor's 50th birthday. And so, like practically I was like, I can't just wear this thing for one day out of the year because I bought it.
Sure.
I was like, well, this is a great occasion to use this, like, this drip that I bought.
Okay. It was drippy, so I had to ask.
Yeah.
Another thing that I've noticed in pieces that you have released or haven't released, and I've tried to be careful not to bring up things because I don't know what is out there, but you make titles that are very alluring in themselves. So what does Diamond Eyes as a title mean?
Yes. When I think of diamonds, I think of objects that are made through pressure, from pressure. And so my eye as an artist is being refined and defined, being hardened and more valuable by my past experiences. And so the near-death experiences, there were some moments of like bad self-talk. I don't know if you've heard like some of those warblings, like negative thoughts I had about myself, and that would ruminate. And then not seen in this video is a clip of the adversary, which is a guy that I depicted as the devil. And I don't know why I didn't play, but I think it was for the best because he
I thought it was a very strong part of the video.
yeah. But he also he cussed. Yeah, he cussed, y'all. He
But
cussed.
can you tell, for those who haven't seen it, what that last clip is?
He says, "Dang, you got diamond eyes."
He really does have diamond eyes.
He really does have diamond eyes, and it's an image of him looking over the camera as if I just got out of a car accident or just crashed and I'm like coming to, and he's like over me like, "Damn, like missed him. Like, didn't get him this time.
Yeah.
And so like Diamond Eyes is like my superpower. Like he's like, dang, those Diamond Eyes. Like every time I put him down, he come back up with something cool. You know what I'm saying? That's how I feel.
I hear you.
Yeah.
So, like I said, there's layers. So from title to wardrobe may not have been as deep, you said, but there was definitely some audio clips. And one of the things that I have also realized about you as an artist is that you appreciate the mystery, and so you don't always give away as much of the story as anyone would like. But also, I would also say to you that the way that your work exists with all of its layers, we do have to consume it, which I'll agree like multiple times to really appreciate what we see.
Yeah.
And so thank you again for making that available to us here and now and telling us a little bit about the story. Father of Lights was the next microfilm that you wanted to feature. And so I know that I know the story, but it existed in your head first. And you came to me and said, hey, do you think you can write a poem in this amount of time? But where did the idea come from? And you can start with the title, Father of Lights.
I'll start with the title. Father of Lights is a phrase that's used in the Bible to describe God. And I believe it's a description of God saying that he's like the creator of the stars and or angelic beings and or the cosmos and or everything that's beautiful, everything that we know is beautiful. And I just wanted to create a work that centered around those themes because I haven't seen it before, and I also was coming out of a creative slump, and like that project came off the back of our conversations just talking about creativity and like why we aren't creating, what's holding us back, and so I remember like we had some back and forth, like just randomly like checking up on each other and praying for each other and whatnot, and then I was like, we should just create something together since we're both in this space, both talking about these things. And then I think like through Bible study or something, I saw that phrase, started thinking about those things, and I was like, this is the concept. Can you write something around that? And you're like, yeah, that was it.
For sure.
Yeah.
I don't know that it was intentional, but as I looked at some of your collections, I noticed your use of props. And sometimes they're spherical, sometimes they're fun.
Yeah.
Diamond Eyes, that you obviously had the photo, the mirror. But if I look for a thread between what you've allowed us to see today, I see diamonds, and then I see the lights in Father of Lights and these orbs. So before we get to the orbs, can you talk about the significance of the lights in the video of Father of Lights?
Yes. So the lights are like symbolic of everybody's individuality and like God-given gifts. If y'all didn't know, each of those lights was held by somebody, which is why, like, I don't know if y'all knew, but throughout the video, they're pretty still. Like, so the extras had to like hold those still for like.
Shout out to the extras.
That was like the hardest part of the film. But then, them walking off stage like kind of like shows like, oh, like this was held by people. This is something like people hold within themselves, like for themselves from God. Did I answer your question?
Absolutely.
Okay, yeah, that's what the light symbolized. And I'm obviously like not a light connoisseur, but I enjoy light as a photographer. I enjoy what light does, and I think it's like it's not magic. I would never use that word to describe what I do, but it's very like light in and of itself is just very like crazy to think about. And the fact that we have cameras that capture light and that like everything we see is a reflection of light bouncing off an object to tell us what color it is, crazy. And the fact that I'll leave it at that. But it's crazy. I like light.
I hear you. I think I share your passion about light because of you asking me to write the story.
Yeah. I mean, all throughout the poem is
different types of light. Absolutely.
Retract and refract and everything else.
So most of what we saw today was in black and white. And to speak to your creative power, I would say that in a lot of your portrait work versus your fine artwork, the use of light is phenomenal. Like those photos are always full of warmth. And there's a glow to your subjects for sure. And so you see that. So let's transition to these that are around the room and also in the Sketches photo series. Tell us about the orbs.
Yeah. So I explained it earlier today. This concept actually came from a sermon that my pastor preached on a Sunday. and he was talking about, uh, like in the book of Numbers, the Israelites going through the wilderness and them crying out to God and asking for provision from God, and God gives them manna. And we've heard the term manna before, but the direct translation for manna is, what is it? So it's a question. Like, the definition is a question, which I thought was super fascinating. And like, when I thought about that, I was like, what would be a way to like visualize this concept of manna? And so it first started off with a concept called breadcrumbs that my friend and collaborator Shrij Wall helped me out on. We did some still life images of like this dinner setting where we had like a loaf of bread cut up, and someone's like partaking in like bread and this wine, like, so it was like communion type of thing. And then what I did was I replaced, same framing and everything, I replaced that loaf of bread with one of these orbs. And those images actually got I forgot to say this. Those images got showcased at a exhibition at Cloud Tree Studios with We Collective, and it's just like a 5 set image, like set project. Anyways, so I enjoyed the way those photographed, and so I bought some more, like just different variety of things. And prior to like when most of these images were captured, I had a Father's Day project where I took pictures of, a lot of the dads are actually in here, of like some really strong and powerful, and if I could use the word, beautiful fathers.
You could use the word.
Yeah, and like when I was looking at those images, I had this wall that I saw, and just some like other things that I felt were like speaking to me. And so like the day after, I was like, "Hey, Shreve Wall, you free, bro?" He said, "Yeah." I was like, "Can you like make sure my camera's in focus, and like I want to take these images of these orbs and these balloons and kind of like speak to creative rebirth, death to self, and different things like that." And we took those images, and then I still had these orbs, and so like I just took it upon myself to just create like a full world. Like I do world building. I appreciate world building. Even as a youth, I like world building is everything to me. So I just started making this world where these things make sense, and they mean God's provision. Like the image of the orb falling from the sky is like probably like the genesis of this thing. Like just like falling is like it's from God. It's, you don't know what it is, but He knows what you need. And for me, it was His voice, it was community, it was to take risk. It was all these different things. And so I imagined this world where these orbs show up in scenarios where you need it most, or for it to symbolize something that you need in a moment.
Great.
Yeah.
Thanks for answering that. I think that can help as you guys, I know we're going to be ending the evening after this, but we'll give you the opportunity to look at those photos in a new light, knowing that these orbs in part represent provision, but also came from that place of questioning and curiosity, which is a feature of your work.
Yeah.
I do have a couple questions to round us out, because I do
Okay.
want you to give us some more information about, again, how we can support. I like to say to artists when I talk to them, you got to eat, right? And so there's a conversation that I encourage artists to have every time they show their work, not only about what's next, but what's needed for their artistry.
Yeah.
But what's next for us right now is to open up Q&A to the floor. So if anybody has any questions, you're welcome to come here in this area, and I will pass you my mic. So if you have a question, you're welcome to come up. If not, I will continue filling the space. Some of you guys have curiosity in your eyes right now as well. So music, sound design.
Yeah, sound design, music. Let me think. So for Diamond Eyes, I'll start there. For Diamond Eyes, I hadn't thought about music at all, but I had put a casting call out for the talent for The Adversary, and on this platform that I used, someone hit me up from like overseas, like who composes music, and she was like, "This is a dope concept. I want to create something for this." I was like, "Okay, cool." And so she actually like composed music for that, to like custom made for that film, which is really cool. For the other ones, for Father of Lights, there was no music.
But Vitiligo Jesus.
But Vitiligo Jesus, yes, a beautiful score. I'm blanking on the name, but it's a jazz score. Equipos by Max Roach. Like just beautiful music. And I just had that in my catalog of music, like not just to pull from, but just music that I appreciate. And I'm like, it would be cool. Like, I want to include everybody on everything, especially like just you know what I'm saying. Like I just want to be able to include like all my influences and
Like your reel that you put together for this
yeah,
season. Yeah.
that reel, the reel that most of y'all saw. That music came from a catalog of music I just enjoy myself. I just wanted to include it in this thing that I also enjoy and wanted to create. And so I use that, and then obviously like I've learned that like getting that music selection down first helps with the pacing and the edit of the film. So once I got that song, I put that in, and it was like, able to like cut it up and like build up these these portraits, so to speak, to the portrait of Jesus, and it just kind of made sense from there.
Man, Isaac, brother, you cold, man.
Appreciate it.
I tell Isaac that all the time. I'm like,
Appreciate it,
brother,
bro.
you cold, man.
Yeah.
So my question to you, man, is when did you know that you had this gift, and what made you want to keep pursuing that gift that you have?
When did I know? I think I had like the first inkling. All right, Alex, we'll see you, brother. You ain't gotta sneak out. We'll see you. I think I knew it, like I had something just from like sitting still. Like I think there's a lot of that missing. I don't want to like be preachy, but I think there's a lot of that missing from today's culture. Like I think people are kind of like afraid or uncomfortable with just sitting by themselves. Like no social media, no consumption of something. Like who sat by themselves for a good hour before, like recently in recent days? Okay, for sure. Yep. So you know what I mean, though, right? Like you hear, and you like have a greater sense of self. It's just inherent. Like you're like, oh, like this stuff just makes sense. What I'm doing, what I'm thinking about, this stuff just makes sense. If I were to like just be constantly moving, constantly hustling, bustling, I probably wouldn't know. I probably would just be doing all the same things. But a part of it also is just like acting on those ideas and thoughts. Kind of what Salena said earlier. Like I've tried to get into the practice of like having an idea and like putting legs to it as soon as possible, because I know what it's like to like have an idea, have a concept, and just sit on it and wait for something to happen as if it would if I don't do anything, which isn't how anything works. And so if I have an idea, I act on it immediately, even if it is like creating a mood board, even if it is like calling Salena, calling my friend and being like, hey, I have this idea. What do you think about this? Like, I trust your opinion. What do you think about this? Can we do it? Like, what do we need? Do we need resources? How do we get resources? You know what I'm saying? Like, just, like, thinking through things, like, in a practical sense. And then, like, the more and more I do that, it builds, like, a muscle. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm able to exist in this space with lots of endurance because I've been there and I've done it. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it gets easier, too. It gets easier the more and more you do it. And it gets easier the more help you have, too. And so, like, I have, like, this long list of ideas that I want to execute. And I'm super excited for this next year, like, collaborating with people like Sharice Wall and, like, Paz, and just people who are, like, who think and create in the same way. Because now I'm able to, like, put a lot of manpower, not man, you know what I'm saying, like, this force behind a lot of these ideas, so I can crank more out. And that's what I want to do. That's my whole thing, my whole purpose. I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna stop. I don't like or enjoy having a lot of money. I don't. But it does help me create things, right? Some people think that like that creatives, photographers, maybe some people do think this way, but you create to earn money, right? Like you take photos to create money and to make a career for you. I've never been about that. Like, and I probably will remain that way. I want to make money to create. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I were not to make money and I was like, what would I do? I would still create images. But the fact of the matter is, the images that I make cost money. Like the resources, the people, their time costs money. The film costs money. The space costs money.
Absolutely.
The frames cost money. The prints cost money. If I had it my way, I would just do it for free. But I make money to create. I'm sorry, that's long-winded. Yeah, my bad. Yeah.
I think you definitely got some segues in there. I don't know if anyone else has a question, but I wanted to speak to, that was one of the things on my list, Isaac, was to talk to you about the expense behind what you do. So, like you said, most things cost money, whether you do it for free or not. And you are someone that is gifted at bringing people together. I think, if I could say so, you probably get it from your parents and things like that. Just
Yeah.
being able to steward well.
Yeah.
I think also as an artist, what makes you great is your heart for people and your heart for artistry. And your ability to see things in people and call it out and bring it forth, even as you yourself are emerging. So besides tonight, with the photos that we have on the walls, if someone wants to support you as an artist or become a collector of Mr. Rowry,
Yeah.
how, when, and where can they do that? Because I know I have my eye on some pieces that are not released and
Oh,
are
right.
not available
Yeah.
yet. But what does that look like going forward? How can someone support you?
People can support me by purchasing prints, purchasing frame prints. Like, there's a Venmo code over there. If anything speaks to you, please. Please.
And so beyond tonight, where else can we buy
beyond?
prints?
Yeah, beyond that, follow me on Instagram. Yeah.
Has anybody seen Isaac's Instagram in the last week? Thank you. Thank you. There are 2 things on your Instagram. You recreate yourself often. So
Follow me on Instagram. No promises, but also connect with me as a person. A lot of y'all got personalized invites and invitations, and I cherish those more than I want more people to see my work. I want to have more conversations, but to keep up with my work, you quite literally have to ask me what I have going on next. Like you have to be interested in me as a person. So there's that too. Continue to lift me up in prayer. If you feel it on your heart to ask me what I need in a particular season of life, do it. I'm not shy about what I need or what I'm working on. Like if you ask me, I'll tell you. I'm just not. Yeah.
So you have fine art, but you also have photography. So if someone wants to commission your services, what are you available for?
Oh, this is my bread and butter. I love this. This is cool. But to make the money, to make more of this, I do headshots, I do portraits, I do graduations, I do product. I do a lot of different things. I'm doing that now so that I can be able to do this full time. So if my services are valuable, if photography, videography is valuable to anybody in here, that's a way that you can help support me and support the vision.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you didn't ask me, but I would encourage you all, as you know, people have events and things like that coming up, to definitely recommend him. As he said, his work expands. I know a lot of you have been subjects or have gotten portraits done. And so videography work is also something that you're able to do. And I would also say make connections. One of the goals, a piece of gold for an artist, is to be introduced to someone else, because you never know what that introduction may bring.
Yeah.
We all love you, but can agree that Isaac is amazing. And I think you think years ahead of yourself whenever I ask you about making your work available. And we talked about being featured in art galleries and things like that.
Yeah.
There's an intention behind the exclusivity, because the way that we price art is by what's available. And so you making art available for sale is not something that's going to happen, 365 days out of the year.
Right. And also, I could, but I don't. And it's not I'm not trying to create allure on my work or create exclusivity. Would it make sense for a Hop Dottie's burger to be served at a McDonald's? I think that's where I'm coming from with a lot of this stuff. Yeah.
And yes. And also, there's a lot of burger joints everywhere. You know what I'm saying?
Everybody making burgers.
Yeah, everybody making burgers.
But
not everybody making
Wagyu
Rowry's,
burgers.
right?
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's 9:32. Were there any questions anyone that I missed that had a question? Yes, Miss Ariana. Whatever you're comfortable with.
This is kind of like a silly, quick question. What does OGTAA mean? I don't know. What is it?
Do I want to share that? Some people know. Some of y'all know. Okay, because you're
Where,
here, I'll
and
tell
where
you.
is it?
OGTAA stands for one good thing after another. Again, another thing that my pastor preached about. I post OGTAA or OGTA for short, when I'm going through something particularly rough or particularly enjoyous. And that is going to become a body of work as well. I submitted that body of work to the Carver Museum for the residency, so hopefully I get it so I can actually build it out. But yeah. But it's a fine art photography project that imagines this gang called OGTA, that stands for One Good Thing After Another, whose whole life is dedicated to this idea of faith in God. And it's really cool. It's really cool. The vignettes, the photos that I want to create for that will be, actually I have one image that I made already for it. So if you're interested, if anybody's interested, I have the image. I can show you, but just like where my mind is going with that project. But yeah, OGTA.
Anyone else? You have a question?
What you got, man? Okay.
Isaac, I hope that in asking you questions, you were able to share not just one story, but multiple stories about the background. Because I know us being people that are close to you in your lives, we see you using spaces that may belong to us, like your mother or your nanny. But we don't always know the questions to ask to find out what's going on with you. So
right, yeah.
Hopefully,
and I appreciate you for that.
Hopefully
Yeah.
that you were able to share stories. I'm gonna hand it back over to Miss Lita for the next round. I think we are wrapping up, right? All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I love you.
Love you too.
Can we give a shout out to these two wonderful people for this amazing interview? Oh my goodness. So we are coming to a close. I'm going to sit down. It's been a long day, y'all.
Yeah.
You know, I would like to say that again, I'm always impressed and inspired by things that are just like coming out of you and how you protect your work. And I think as a fellow creative, that's really important because we are in a space where everything is so visible and everything is based upon
accessible.
Yes, based upon a very quick validating source. And so I just really appreciate the intentionality behind all of this. So if you all did not know, I have the QR codes if you're interested in purchasing art. I've got a list. I've got a whole book of stickers that I haven't utilized yet. So please purchase some of this beautiful art.
And also, if money is an issue, those small prints on the garage door are $24. So I try to make like things in everybody's
Scalable.
Yeah.
Yes,
So you can go home with
absolutely.
something. Yeah. Also, sorry, I don't mean to cut you
okay.
off, but if you volunteered and helped out, you get a free 4x6 print. So make sure you leave today with one of those and let me know so I can frame it for you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We have special announcements?
We do have a special announcement. Okay, yeah, really quickly, y'all. I know, like, y'all have seen a lot of videos today, right? And some of y'all are like, oh, I thought you were a photographer. I'm multidisciplinary. I mean, I do different things. But with that being said, I am forming Light Language Films.
Woo! Fantastic!
Yeah. It's a video production company that specializes in faith-based documentary and music videos and narrative short films. Because y'all are here, I'll tell you that I'm working on a project titled The Woman and the Prophet, which some of y'all may already know, but it's going to be a narrative film, and so just be on the lookout for that information. There will definitely be like a Seed and Spark, funding type of thing down the line. I just need to do more reps, like video-wise, but yeah, that is created. So yeah. So yeah, I feel good about that.
Anything else? Anything else you want to share? When are we doing this again?
See y'all October 27th, 2025. Maybe next year. Maybe. Yeah.